Hey guys, it's Matthew here from Hearing Tracker, keeping you up to date with today's hearing aid technology. Today we're going to be covering the Phonak Paradise hearing aid and some recent updates that you need to know about. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you're interested in keeping up to date with the latest hearing aid technology updates. Phonak are pretty excited about these hearing aids, and rightly so, especially since they've announced the most recent updates in the last few weeks. So what I wanted to do is to create one place where you can come for all of the information that you need to know about the Phonak Paradise range. Phonak released these hearing aids in the summer of 2020, and I'm not only excited to do this review based on the information that Phonak have got out there, but also based on the hands-on experience that I've had over the last 12 months of fitting these hearing aids. So in today's review, I won't just be giving you the positives on all of the sales blurb that they've got. I'll also be giving you some hands-on experience in terms of my experiences and those of my patients that I fitted with these hearing aids. Not only that, but at the end of this review, I'll also be confirming some new additions to the Phonak Paradise range and also some information that I've been privy to for releases from Phonak in 2022. The Phonak Paradise hearing aids supersede the Phonak Marvel hearing aids, which came out in the summer of 2018. The Marvel was a big step up in terms of technology for Phonak because it was their first rendition of a hearing aid that had binaural Bluetooth connections to your mobile phone. And yes, they had their flaws, but I'm pleased to say that Phonak have really stepped up in terms of their developments of this technology. The hearing aids come in a range of different colors, and just like other manufacturers, Phonak tend to match different hair colors. They all come with a matte effect, so they tend to blend in with your hair at the same time, and the most popular color that I tend to fit, or that patients tend to choose, is their champagne color. Your audiologist will have a color chart so that they can run through it with you and you'll be able to choose the right color for you. Visually, they don't look too dissimilar to the Marvel hearing aids. There's just a subtle difference in terms of the push button on the back of the hearing aid, and the forward-facing microphone is just a slightly different shape at a slightly different angle. If you're wondering why hearing aids seem to be getting bigger nowadays, it's because the race for the smallest hearing aid is long and gone. It's all about functionality and getting the best out of your hearing aid in your ears. And so now we've got Bluetooth crammed inside, we've got rechargeable batteries, and they all just take up a little bit more space. In terms of the design of this Phonak hearing aid, I liken it to the Porsche of hearing aids because it's got that sleek, smooth design. The Audeo Paradise range are all receiver in the canal hearing aids. They have a rocker switch on the back, which is a soft key, so we can program it to do different things, whether that's to act as a volume control or to access different programs. It has an LED in the center on the back, which lights up if you have the rechargeable version to let you know the amount of battery life that you've got in the hearing aids. They have these 4 models available, which span across each different technology level. The smallest of them is the Paradise 312. The only downside of that is you have to forgo both the telecoil or the loop system and the rechargeable if you go with a slightly smaller hearing aid. Paradise comes in 4 different technology levels: essential, standard, advanced and premium, with access to different features and more automation the more advanced the hearing aid. And the newest addition to this Phonak Paradise range is something called the Phonak Paradise Life, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about at the end of this video, but it's their new rechargeable waterproof hearing aid. They still use the same wax guards as the Marvel range, which are the Shields, which for me was a big mistake because patients still seem to struggle to turn the dial and to actually change those filters. So ideally, I wish we could go back to the old days where we had the stops. Not only that, but sometimes the actual filter itself can become dislodged or decentralized, and it makes it really difficult to get it out. You need some specialist tools to be able to do so. Now that's the physical side of things covered. Let's really talk about what these hearing aids can do. Historically, when the manufacturers of hearing aids bring out a new hearing aid and then they replace that hearing aid, they build on the same chip and just change some of the external components. And despite what the marketing says, we don't tend to see a huge leap in terms of technology. Paradise is not only a brand new hearing aid, but it's also a brand new chip. And I get really excited when we see new chips because we tend to see bigger jumps in terms of processing power and what these hearing aids are actually capable of doing. From a hearing aid user's perspective, this normally means that the hearing aid can process more information simultaneously, and it can do it quicker, faster, and smarter. The new chip is the Prism chip, in which we've seen improvements in a few key areas. The first area is Bluetooth connectivity. With the Marvel, the hearing aids had the ability to connect to 1 Bluetooth device at a time. And with this hearing aid, we have the ability to connect to 8 simultaneously. One of the biggest complaints that I had from my Marvel patients was that if they wanted to change from one of their Bluetooth devices to another, so say from their mobile phone to their laptop, they had to repair every time. Now we can have those 8 devices paired simultaneously, with 2 of them being active at the same time. So if you're on the laptop and your phone rings, it will choose accordingly. You don't have to repair to be able to take that call. Phonak were the first manufacturer to bring out a made-for-all Bluetooth technology, and that essentially means that their hearing aids can connect to any Bluetooth device because they're on classic Bluetooth. So not just smartphones on iOS or Android, any phone that's got Bluetooth on it. Why do I even need Bluetooth on my hearing aids? It's the technology that you don't realize you need until you've tried it. So I think we'll be looking back in 5 or 10 years' time and we'll be thinking, how did we ever have hearing aids that didn't have Bluetooth built into them and this interaction with other devices? I've made a video covering this already, and I'll put a link to that in the description to this video. But in summary, it allows you to stream phone calls or media such as video, podcasts or the radio directly to both of your hearing aids without any intermediate devices. It also allows you to use an app so you can manually make adjustments to the settings on your hearing aids if you want to, and it just gives you a little bit more control over them. Both Phonak and Unitron are currently the only manufacturers to allow truly hands-free calls on your hearing aids with no intermediate device. And how that works is the sound from your phone is directly sent to both of your ears, and it compensates for the hearing loss that you've got. But at the same time, the microphones on your hearing aids pick up your voice, so the person on the other end of the call can hear you speaking. So technically, you can keep your phone in your pocket, and you should still be able to have a conversation with the person on the other end of the line. I have found that whilst this is great in theory, there are issues with it, and the big issues come down to the orientation of the microphones. Of course, the microphones on hearing aids are designed to pick up what's going on behind you and what's going on in front of you. They're not necessarily designed to pick up your own voice. So there have been patients reporting that they can hear the person on the other end of the phone just fine, but the person on the other end of the phone can also pick up the peripheral sound that's going on around them a little bit too much. So it's the only flaw that we've currently got with this hands-free technology. Phonak call their automatic setting in these hearing aids AutoSense, and this is version 4.0, and it automatically switches between these different listening situations. Once the environment is recognized as being one of these particular settings, the AutoSense then chooses from 200 different settings to optimize the listening environment for the user at that particular time. Phonak have made a really smart move by introducing motion sensors onto the Paradise range. And you might be thinking, why do my hearing aids need to know if I'm moving or not? And it's a really good question. The reason being is that because if you're moving, you're likely to be wanting to listen to different things. So, for example, if you're sat down in a restaurant at a table, more often than not, you want to hear what's going on in front of you, so what you're looking at. Then if you stand up and start walking, the motion sensors will detect that, and they'll make things slightly more omnidirectional, because normally if you're walking, unless someone's walking backwards in front of you, you don't necessarily want to hear what's going on in front of you. But if you're walking and talking to somebody, more often than not, they'll be to your left and your right. So of course, you want the microphones on the hearing aids to be able to sense that. So instead of it picking up what's in front of you when you're sat at the table, it'll give you a little bit more information in terms of what's going on to your left and to your right. The speech enhancer that Phonak have introduced into the Prism chip is essentially designed to reduce listening effort, and the whole theory behind it is that it gives you a little bit more amplification on the softer sounds so that it'll pick up slightly quieter speaking people, and at the same time people that are talking to you from a slightly further distance. APD 2.0 is Phonak's new and improved fitting formula, which I'm pleased to say they're boasting it's a lot closer to the traditional NAL NL2 fitting formula that we consider the gold standard in terms of matching hearing aid settings to targets when we're performing real ear measurements. And finally, dynamic noise cancellation is a spatial noise cancellation feature that works in combination with a directional beamformer to improve the speech to noise ratio in those more complicated listening environments such as restaurants, groups or crowded environments. Phonak have introduced a tap control feature in their P90s and P70 rechargeable versions, and what this allows you to do is to access both your voice assist or start or end calls or music or media just by tapping your ear a couple of times. This is great because it means that you can access other features without having to take your phone outside of your pocket. The downside is I've had to turn it off with a few patients because they've accidentally pressed it whilst tapping their ear, and they've got Siri or Google Assist talking to them just during a normal conversation, which has just driven them a little bit crazy. As a whole, tap control is great in combination with the myPhonak app because it takes away the difficulty of sometimes having to press the button on the back of the hearing aids and just makes things a little bit more easy to play around with. In previous videos, I've discussed the future of hearing aid technology, and I've discussed this all-encompassing device that we're seeing where it's a combination of both a hearable, a hearing aid, it's got your mobile phone wrapped up in it too. And I'm really excited to see this transition that we're going through at the moment. I think at some point in the future, we're also going to see people with normal hearing wearing something in their ears full time. And I hope that this helps with the destigmatization of hearing aids and those people that are on the fence in terms of wearing hearing aids and not comfortable to do so from a cosmetic point of view. Each manufacturer has its own app to work with their Bluetooth hearing aids, and to cover all of those features is worth a video in itself. But to give you a brief overview, if you have an iOS or an Android device, you can download the app, and it allows you to make adjustments to the volume of the hearing aid. It allows you to access different programs on there as well, without having to press the button on the back of your hearing aids. Not only that, but the myPhonak app allows you to adjust some finer details as well. So you can adjust the bass, the mids and the treble. You can increase or decrease the noise reduction settings or the directionality of the microphones as well. And you can even create your own settings. So if you come up with something that you're quite happy with and you quite like, you can save that as a program and then come back to it at another time. And I really like this because it gives the user a little bit more independence in terms of wearing their hearing aids. But don't worry, if you're not one for making adjustments to the settings on your hearing aids, the top tiers of those technology levels are designed to be fully automatic. So this is more of a manual override and a bonus rather than something that you have to do with the hearing aids to get the best out of them. The app also allows you to adjust the tinnitus masker features if you have those enabled, and if you have any accessories such as the TV streamer, it allows you to change the balance between what's going on the television and the sound coming through on the microphones on the hearing aids. One great feature that I've really made the most of over the last 18 months is the remote adjustments feature. And what this allows me to do is to log on to the patient's hearing aids through their smartphone and make adjustments to the settings on their hearing aids. I can be sat there in the clinic and they would be sat at home on their sofa, or even better, they may be in a situation or a place where they're struggling to hear, and I can make changes and we can have a live understanding in terms of whether those changes are having a positive impact. I don't like to do this very early on in the adjustment process, so when I've just fitted the hearing aids, because there's nothing like having the patient sat in front of me for me to get a real understanding and idea in terms of how they're getting along. Plus, there might be physical adjustments that we like to make. And at the same time, the first thing that I'll always do when making adjustments to the settings on somebody's hearing aids is take a look in their ear. And we don't have that ability, which shouldn't be a luxury when we're doing things remotely. Using the remote adjustments, though, is a great addition for somebody that I might want to get back to the clinic and just make a very minor change. And I can adjust about 90% of the things that I need to do when I've got the patient sat at home in their living room. Phonak have been great at recognizing where hearing aid technology alone will struggle to overcome certain hearing challenges and difficulties. So they have quite a broad range of accessories to be able to help you out in those areas, ranging from the TV streamer to the Roger FM range. Historically, hearing aid manufacturers have had to add an FM shoe onto the bottom of the hearing aids to be able to pick up FM systems. But what Phonak have cleverly done is they've integrated the FM receivers and the technology necessary to work with the FMs into the hearing aids already. So you can work with your audiologist to be able to pair these hearing aids to the extra accessories with no additional equipment necessary that's physically attached to the hearing aids. So it stops them from being any more cumbersome or any bigger. Phonak Paradise has a rechargeable version of their hearing aids too, which is using the industry standard lithium-ion technology. And what that means is overnight you can put the hearing aids on charge and it takes 3 hours to give them a full charge, and you should get 24 hours of life out of them. This is slightly reduced with the more streaming that you do, but I haven't had any patients come back to me and say that their hearing aids haven't lasted a full day in terms of battery life. There is clever circuitry in place so that you can leave them on charge overnight and they won't overcharge and damage the batteries. And if you forget to charge the hearing aids, you can put them on charge for half an hour when you get ready in the morning, and they'll still give you 6 hours of life out of the things. So what else have Phonak got up their sleeves? Rather excitingly, they've just announced that they're now releasing a Paradise compatible CROS system, which is needed for single-sided deafness management. Now, I've been a bit disappointed with Phonak over the last few years because they haven't had a CROS system for both the Marvel or the Paradise range, but now this means that if I've got somebody with single-sided deafness, I can now consider Phonak again for a hearing aid for them. Also hot off the press, we have the new Phonak Life hearing aid. Now, all of the rest of the Paradise range are IP68 rated, which is the standard, meaning that they can technically be submerged in 1.5 meters of water and they should still function afterwards. Phonak are boasting that this new receiver in the canal hearing aid will be the world's first fully rechargeable waterproof hearing aid. To do this, they've had to add additional microphone protection, a paraline coating to all the components, they've had to put a silicone seal around all of the joints, and they've redesigned the way that the rechargeable hearing aids work. So currently the Paradise range have contacts on the bottom, and with the new Life range there'll be inductive charging, similar to that of Oticon, Widex and ReSound. This means that there'll also be a new rechargeable unit called the Charge and Go to go with these hearing aids. They're not the first manufacturers to do this though. So about 10 years ago, ReSound were boasting it using a nano coating technology, but they are the first manufacturers to do it on a fully rechargeable set of hearing aids. If you're wondering why this is a big deal, well, it kind of is and it isn't at the same time. The hearing aids themselves are still on the Paradise range, so if you're a current Paradise user, I honestly wouldn't bother changing or considering them. It might just be a step change in terms of how they protect their hearing aids going forward, so we might see it on all of their future technology. However, if you're somebody whose hearing aids are repeatedly going away, they're breaking down, then this could be the hearing aid for you, because it will stop the hearing aids from breaking down due to sweat, due to dust ingression, and due to moisture ingression. So I'm hoping and thinking that we'll see a lot more robustness from these hearing aids. Phonak, if you're listening, it would be great if you can start to look at doing this for both your in-the-ear hearing aids and your lyric hearing aid as well. Of course, they live in a far more hostile environment due to the moisture ingression and the wax ingression that we get from those hearing aids, and they're actually far more likely to break down. So if we can see this technology taken over to in-the-ear hearing aids, then I'll be really excited. The last new really exciting addition to the Phonak Paradise range is their ActiveVent receiver. Now, as a hearing aid user, you probably don't even have to think about the receivers that you've been fitted with in the past. And I don't even know if your audiologist will feel the need to mention this to you in the future, because all you want to do is to turn up and get the right hearing aid for you. What's special about the Phonak ActiveVent is that it's a very exciting new tool which allows us to do your hearing aid fitting without the need for us to compromise. The domes on the ends of hearing aids are incredibly important, not just for comfort, but they play a significant role in terms of the acoustics of your hearing aids. And so the type of dome that you have can change how music sounds, how background noise sounds, how the clarity of the hearing aid comes out, and even how your own voice sounds. There are positives and negatives to having your ear open, so allowing natural sound in, and having your ear closed, so no natural sound goes in whatsoever. And sometimes with an individual patient, we want to do both at the same time, and we have to compromise because we can't. The ActiveVent allows just that. It will be compatible with any of the rechargeable Phonak Paradise hearing aids, and there are two versions. One is a generic version, and the other is a custom-made tip that goes on the end of the receiver. The main advantages of them are that your own voice should sound natural, and when you're streaming music, it should have more of a fullness, a richness and a bass to it, and you should cope better in more complicated and noisy listening situations, such as a restaurant or a group environment. I hope you're as excited about the Phonak Paradise hearing aids as I am on all of the new additions that they've got. If you like this video, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them beneath this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll see you in the next video.